All right. So, starting on number one, boys, we're doing a tier list here. We're gonna rate all the WoW cinematics on the tier list, obviously here. The rules are that we're only rating them based on the trailer itself and not the expansion itself. Okay, so all you Wrath Andes, okay, it's gonna be okay. Okay. Um. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, classic. Gavin, I'm gonna cede to you first, just to hear some of your thoughts first on some of them.
Yeah, for sure. I
Um.
was gonna say you should name it real quick S through like do like SABCDF
Oh, I
is
can
what I would
rename it.
do.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Just because then it's like if we call something B, we're not saying it's
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
It could still be really good, but like it's
I
kind of
agree.
like S tier is the absolute best. A is like really good. B is still good. C is like, it's decent. D and F, it's bad basically.
Yeah.
But
Good
I don't think
call.
we really have anything in the entire list that would fall under F. But shit.
So, yeah, how do you
Yeah,
feel about the
thoughts
classic
on
one?
the classic one. Overall, like I think in terms of the overall list, like it's I don't know, it's a great one to start off with, and it's the first one that many players have seen. I think taking that in context with it, it's like there's a lot of nostalgia with it. I'm sure there's nostalgia based on any of these, really.
Yeah.
It's got like a strong identity. I don't think it has like the production value or like the linear focus of like the later
Yeah.
ones.
I was gonna
So
add too. I meant to say this before. Sorry to interrupt you.
oh yeah,
It is within bounds to rate based on comparing to any other one.
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. I think out of all of these, like rating classics, expansion, I'd have to like me personally,
Mm-hmm.
like you said before, this is your rankings.
Mm-hmm.
But me personally, I really like it, but I'd put it in C compared to the other ones.
Okay. Okay. So, how I feel about classic, the trailer, I think that it's a really good fucking trailer in terms of a clean slate and making us care about something that is new and also not like stockpiling story onto us that we don't know about, which would have been the case at that time. They did a really good job. I think they hit it on the mark. I think that the best thing about this trailer, I love some of the scenes in it. I think some of them are titular scenes to World of Warcraft overall. I think the best thing about this trailer was the music, and I think that the music was S tier, and everything else about it relative to the others was B tier. So I am going to place classic in B tier overall.
Hell
If there
yeah.
was one more S, then I would put it in A tier, but I think the music was absolutely the strong suit in that one and it did carry it.
Hell yeah.
All right. So on to Burning Crusade. Burning Crusade. What are your thoughts, Gavin?
Yeah. Burning Crusade, I definitely think, has some, kind of increased vibes from the classic one. Definitely some similarities, a lot of the same charm. Definitely
Agreed.
more focus on, Illidan, and I don't know. I think you could tell it was like they started, slowly pivoting toward villains as their main focus and like
Mm-hmm.
more iconic characters over just over just the broad scope of being, you being the main,
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I don't know. I would say I would put it very closely to classics. I don't know. I don't know which one between the first two. I would hmm, that's tough. That's tough to
It,
say which one.
for
I don't
me
know.
to
Like gun to my head, I'd probably put Burning Crusade behind it just because the nostalgia of the first one. But
That's fair. That's fair. And one thing I do want to note, I kind of touched on with Gavin a little bit earlier, but I love having him here for these because he's seen a lot of them, and it's giving me slightly less of a bias because some of them are more nostalgic than others for me. But having Gavin on and letting me know, and like it's giving me a lot more clarity. Um, I
oh
would
yeah,
say in terms of Burning Crusade, I think it's not a banger in the way that some of the later ones were. Again, guys, I'm gonna say it a couple times. We're only going off of the trailers. We're not going off of gameplay here. What I really like about BC and why it'll get a higher grade than I might have rated it before is that it kept to the same tone of the vanilla trailer, but also understood that some of us know about some of the story now from having played vanilla. And also, I mean, the titular "you are not prepared" line, I mean, that shit has just that's been a meme ever since the beginning. I would probably put Burning Crusade also in B tier. It's and I'd like to say, like I kind of did with the classic trailer, they're both almost A tier, but they're just not quite there when you compare it to everything else, in my opinion.
exactly. That's what I was thinking too, and that's why I was initially thinking to shove those into C. And the only reason I was thinking that
Absolutely.
is like I think about relativity, and I think about how like whenever I make tier lists, I tend to
I love.
throw like so many into the S, A, and B, and then there's like one in C and one in D. But in this case,
Yes.
it feels like I can already tell most is going to land in the first three
That
categories. So
and dude, that yeah, that's how I was feeling about it as well. But I think it's really good. Like you're actually lowering some of my votes with some of the stuff you're saying, which is really good stuff. And
oh yeah,
I think it's good to because in my brain, like at a moment's notice, like all of these would be an A or S, but then A or S kind of loses their value if everything is
yeah,
an A or S. So I really, first of all, I really appreciate you being here and doing this with me, and secondly, I really
oh yeah.
appreciate you like just putting in your input because it's making me like really think about where these land relative to all of them.
For sure, yeah.
All right, so Wrath of the Lich King, boys, and the people are gonna be mad, I think, at me. Uh, um, I thought out of everything so far that we've gone through, I thought Wrath was probably the best, and I think it was the most experimental in comparison to the other two. I think they did a really good job on the BC and the vanilla trailer. They vastly outperformed what they needed to do the job they did. But I think that the Wrath trailer really like just got out. It was snowy. It was a whole different vibe. It was focusing on a villain much more so than the other ones, where the other ones were, you had Illidan of course in the BC one, but it still had the vibes of the classic trailer where it was kind of like craft your own journey, and that was really
Mhm.
cool. But it was really cool to see them really believe in the player's ability to interpret what has already happened in the story.
Definitely, I agree. My first instinct was like I think it's better than the first two. And
Hmm.
I am not so sure how it's. I like it better than like the Cataclysm one. I'm unsure if I would rate it
Hmm.
higher than some of the later ones, but then again, I think it's like you're saying, like not only is it like the first major focus on a villain, and it also releasing it probably the height of the games, like this expansion created the kind of set the height of the game's popularity and stuff, and I'm sure part of that had to be the hype going in created by this cinematic, so it was like this
Absolutely.
game was on fire at this point.
Yeah. Another thing too that's important to note, and all you Andes know it, is that where Warcraft 3 ended, people really felt like after Burning Crusade, there was no other way to go than, of course, the Lich King, Arthas. and I think
Yeah.
that created a big amount of hype, that well deserved hype, of course. For all those reasons, me personally, I would I and also guys, the music on the Wrath trailer, as good if not better than the vanilla, which as you guys already know I rate the vanilla music S tier. I would put Wrath in A tier.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I was thinking B or A for sure.
It's just slightly, for me anyway, it was slightly better than the other ones. It's actually really cool to have watched these all in the row, in a row. And guys, there's another video of us reacting to all of them in a row that will be up before this one, so if you haven't seen that and you're curious, go check it out. But reacting all of them in a row, Wrath I think actually was a little bit better than the vanilla and the Burning Crusade one. And my initial rating before we did this, Gavin, was that all three of those were going to be in B.
Oh yeah, for sure. I feel that. I
um
was gonna say too, in case you want to change the order inside of a tier, you can drag the ones to the right. The ones furthest out right are like sort of like further away from being like the one that's closest to the letter is like the highest in that
okay,
category.
okay, I'm gonna move Burning Crusade then.
Interesting. Yeah, I wasn't sure if you had
Yeah,
made
no,
the one
yeah,
choice on purpose.
no, yeah, you were like, what's he gonna do here? um okay, so uh Cataclysm. I'll let you start on this one because I started on the last one. How do you feel about
Oh yeah,
Cataclysm?
for sure. I think Cataclysm is cool in terms of the just in terms of the cinematic was very sick. I think overall it felt like it was super short and sweet, and I don't know, didn't really get a. I don't know. It's like with these villain intros, you don't really get a major sense of their, I guess, like all of their motivations and stuff. And I feel like with like having a dragon antagonist versus like the humanoid ones, it's definitely an interesting change up. I know very little about Deathwing, so like going into it, it was interesting to see. um I feel like we could have seen even more like devastation in the trailer. Like we probably could have,
I
they could have
agree.
shown like way more like damage being done, but they may have wanted to save it for when you're actually walking through the world and you're seeing like the full extent of it. So
Yeah,
I guess those are my only real thoughts on it overall. I think it's good. I would say it like it affects it. I don't know. Like I'm thinking about how like it affects me probably less than the others personally, but I also think about like when it came out, it was probably
mm-hmm,
like people didn't know how much Kato was going to change the entire world,
yeah,
no pun
yeah.
intended.
I think in terms of Kata, I think they did a really good job in showing that the world was going to change, which there's some brownie points to be added there. Obviously the cutscene was really cool. I mean, they're all really cool, just as a standard. Deathwing is really cool. However, I do feel like the way they introduce their more humanoid villains and the connection you can make with them versus Deathwing, in terms of just the trailer, was a lot more powerful. And for that reason, me personally, I'm going to put Cataclysm into the C tier.
Yeah, I was thinking a similar thing there.
Yeah, it was really good. The cinematic looked great, but it's hard to watch Wrath trailer before and watch how figurative and shit they are with it. And even taking out the knowledge I have, there's still some figurative language in there where it's like a more chill trailer, but it's exactly what needs to be said and nothing more. It's hard to top that. And I think that's a big reason why this one lands in the C tier for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mists of Pandaria. This was an interesting one.
Yeah, this one was really cool. I think it was like definitely a breath of fresh air and
I
felt
agree.
like probably the most like symbolic trailer in terms of, Pandaria and its inhabitants being like a third party to the whole WoW thing and kind of switching it up. Like it
Yeah,
almost seems like by this point the expansions are really shaking things up. Like especially with, I mean, I guess the shaking up of things probably started with Wrath, but overall, like it feels like every expansion, Wrath and Beyond, is has really introduced some new, just new elements, whether it's new races, new areas, and it's cool to really like you see that straight up. You already get a sense of like the Pandarens, or I forget, I don't know how to say their name, but you can
Pandarans.
kind of, yeah, Pandaren, yeah, you kind of get like the I don't know, you get a sense that they have their own way of life and their own culture, and it's cool to be able to communicate so much in like such a little amount of time. Definitely get like monk vibes from them, and
Same. Yep.
some serious wisdom that may have been missing from like the previous trailers. There's like
That's a
often an
really good point.
emphasis on like the badassery of it, and it's almost like theirs is like more like grounded and wise, like sage power rather than just like raw brute power.
Yeah, yeah.
Feels
I
like there's a
think
lot of like demonic undertones in the other ones compared to this one.
so. Yeah, yeah. Normally for me, because I've watched these a billion times in the past, guys, but watching them together with Gavin and watching them all immediately in a row, it does kind of change your tune. And I think that this was a really it reminded me of World of Warcraft with an Overwatch cutscene tone, and I really liked that. It was kind of silly. There was still some cool battles and stuff to see. Like they definitely took advantage of what they know about their cinematics and people fighting and stuff, but it was a little bit sillier. It didn't take itself as seriously, and I really liked that about it. Normally,
Mm.
I would have placed this as a C tier, but I think that I will place it as a B tier. And if I, it's so hard because if I was rating off of gameplay and the zones, it would go up. But if I'm rating off of just the trailer, for me personally, it's going to be a B.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
That's an interesting one. I think that's the first one where I would have put it in like A, but I totally see what you mean.
no, yeah, and that's dude, that's exactly why I wanted to have us do this together. Is like, guys, like obviously these are our opinions, and like it's really cool to see where everybody else places this too. And if you have anything you'd like to add of why you place it in A, please say so.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I
I
think
know you kind of like covered
oh
a lot,
yeah,
but
yeah. Overall, I think bouncing off of your points, like it's definitely the most lighthearted uh expansion cinematic, which is pretty sweet, and I don't know, like it could definitely, people could make the case that it's like the the less cohesive cinematic overall, because
mm-hmm,
so much of it is like Alliance versus Horde, and they're they kind of have continued to go on after Pandaria, with
right,
more Alliance versus Horde stuff. So in a way it's like I could see it being polarizing just off of that, but I think it's fresh enough that yeah, for me I'd put it in A. I don't know if it's as good as like some of the later ones that we're about to cover. I think are
yeah,
like there are a couple of those that I think are automatic
a
like
lot.
S tier ones for
Yeah,
me.
a lot of them. And so that's kind of how I'm feeling. A lot of the later ones, obviously, the later WoW expansions have a lot of differing opinions about the gameplay, but in terms of the trailers, I mean, they hit it on the nail and it's insane. And so it's hard to take 20 years of cinematics and, you know, place them when the last 10 years have just vastly outdone the other ones when we're speaking only in terms of trailers.
Yeah.
Um, that being said, though, so Gavin would place Mists as an A for the trailer. Mine is going to be a B. But and guys, let us know what you think in the comments. Let us know every game what you think it should be in the tier list. We'd love to, see what you guys think. Um, I'm not God, so these are not
So,
Um,
out of curiosity, did you place Pandaria behind those other two on purpose? So it's like bottom of B tier for you so
oh,
far.
yes, actually, yeah.
Cool,
Not
cool,
at
gotcha,
first, but yeah, no, it did. Like I did just place it at the end, but that is accurate.
gotcha.
Um, actually, no, yeah, that's accurate. We'll go with that. All right, so on to Warlords of Draenor, and I will start this one off.
Yeah, do it.
This shit, guys.
Yep.
I know the expansion was mid. I see it all the time on Reddit. Like, obviously, you guys played it more than I did. I played at the end of Warlords, but this trailer was fucking nuts. Everything about it was awesome. I got goosebumps about 12 times. The music, the end part where it pulls up the World of Warcraft like logo with the planet showing and all that shit, it was just fucking immaculate. How do you feel about it, Gavin?
Yeah, no, I definitely I think it was the first expansion cinematic that I was like I was hanging on there every word, and they
Yeah,
say
yeah.
so little and they convey so much. I think that's like when I was saying earlier about how the orcs are some of the most interesting to watch. Like it's not just from a visual perspective. It's like the attention to like their demeanor and like their own
Yes.
expressions. Like they're very expressive without having to say very much, and like how they're kind of temperamental and they can switch on a whim. I feel like you get to see like the orcs in closer detail, you know, just in terms of like how they would react and specifically how these characters would react. I think it was like just totally masterfully done. You get to see the power of the orcs on full display, and you also get to see like just a very sort of like summarized like revolution, you know,
Yes.
and the orcs
Yes.
like breaking, you know, out of Gul'dan's like, you know, whole thing, and kind of just like I don't know, forsaking the idea that they need to, you know,
Give up
surrender to some
everything.
higher power. Like, yeah, exactly. Like they don't need to sacrifice. You know, it's like they're finding their own power, and it also seemed like Sylvanas in her own like twisted way was like kind of communicating a similar message with like, you know, the
Absolutely.
stuff that she did in the later expansions. But yeah, I think just the messaging of it and the like just the very focused like execution of it was done extremely well. Yeah, it was done really well. I would personally I'd put this one above Legion. I don't know if I would put it above. I can tell you right now, I would put it above Legion, and I'd put it above Dragonflight. I like
Hmm.
both of those, and I really like Dragonflights, but I'd put this one above both. I'd put this one in S.
Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna have to agree right there because guys burn me at the stake. The Warlords cutscene, the trailer. Again, guys, we're only going off a trailer. We're not going off a gameplay. We're not going off of how the expansion went.
Yeah,
Eh, dude, the Warlords of Draenor fucking trailer S, dude, above
yeah,
fucking Wrath, above Wrath for me personally.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, I mean, dude, that's been one of my favorites for a long time, and I knew at the beginning of this, and you know, when I was telling you, Gavin, I was like, "Yo, we got to do this." I knew that Warlords was going to be in the category in terms of the trailer. It was just so well done, and it
That's
really.
good.
And thinking about how it was a terrible expansion in terms of the players, it must have been rough to have been a player at that time and see that trailer and have an expansion that sucks dick.
Trust broken in Blizzard
Yeah.
after that.
Yeah, and that's when people it's it makes a lot of sense when you say it like that. Like you see something like that and you're like, "Boys, we're about to do it," and you're not about to do it.
Right, yeah.
But
That's
anyway,
very interesting.
uh on to Legion. So, yeah, that was
Yeah.
the one with Varian and Sylvanas on the fucking flying ships. I'll let you start
Yep.
this one off.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the narration. I like the there are a couple moments that just they they're cliches for good reason. The whole idea of, like, strive for peace, but, fight for it. The whole, like,
Yeah.
connection, the whole, like, opening the compass and seeing his son, and like he's doing this for his son, and like the whole idea of like the lineage of it and passing it on. I think it's, there's a reason that that has become like such a staple of like fantasy in general. Is like, not only is lineage important in terms of like deciding in monarchies who gets to be the next king, but in this it feels like a deeper, there's like a deeper sense of like responsibility. Like, not only is he like passing the torch to his son, but he's also, you know, he's fighting for like the whole alliance, and
Yeah.
as
Yep.
Sylvanas also said later on, like, alliances get made and get broken and stuff, like, but it's really cool that in spite of like alliances, breaking, and anything else, just like the fact that there's still hope. I really think the alliance symbolizes hope, and I think that this trailer, or this cinematic, above all, like, you get a hopeful vibe from it in a way that you might not get the same hopeful vibe from like the rest of them. So I think it's
Yeah.
special in that way.
Yeah, I agree. I think and I also think the camaraderie of the Alliance and Horde coming together was probably really refreshing because Mists had the whole Alliance versus Horde thing going pretty heavy. Um in terms of like just the trailer, not even like talking about the story, because we did say it's only going to be trailer stuff, but like even in the trailer, there's still this arduous like conflict going on, and Warlords is about kind of the past of the orcs, and so Legion kind of bringing both the Alliance and Horde together to fight a common evil, and you really see it in the trailer. That was super cool.
Yeah. And I was gonna mention, I was getting, like, before we went through all these, I used to get Legion and BFA's trailers mixed up. But the Legion trailer isn't the one where it's like Anduin, and or not Anduin, but Varian and Sylvanas together, right? Like, that's the one where it's just Varian and he's
The
like
Le-
narrating about his.
The Legion one is where Varian like picks up the compass with Anduin and the picture on
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's the one that I thought, but it's not the one where he's fighting, or no, he is fighting with Sylvanas. That's right.
Yeah, he's fighting
He
with
like,
Sylvanas, and then BFA is like Anduin and fighting Sylvanas and the Horde.
I got you. Yep. Okay. Yeah, because I was getting those two mixed together, but all the things that I said about Legion were
Yeah,
what
you
was the
sounded
correct one.
like you knew what you were talking about
No,
on
yeah,
that.
I did. Yeah, it was just
Um,
the I forget who teamed up with who in the
I
two of.
would I would put, for me personally, I would put Legion in. It's it's gonna pass Burning Crusade. It's almost A tier, more so than Burning Crusade. So I would put it closest to B, right?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. It's so close to A tier, but I'm not gonna put it up there because thinking about comparing it to some of the other ones, I don't want to dampen the A or S tier, and and B tier is still good. I really like them. Even C tier is all right. Like the fact that nothing has gone in D or F tier is really like a statement to how good these guys are.
yeah. No, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think my personal ranking for Legion would probably, I'd probably put that at the top of A, and then
At the top of A, you would.
yeah, and then I think it, yeah,
It's
like
almost
in
there
my
for me.
hypothetical, yeah, in my hypothetical list, it'd be like in A so far, Legion, then Mists, then Wrath is what I would
Okay,
put it in.
that's really interesting. And like it's crazy too. I'm not gonna move it just because I already placed it, but like Wrath, like, or not Wrath, Mists, like it was really good in a jarring way. It's hard to say. Like it like Mists used to be for me in C or D tier, but with like just how quirky it is, I guess, like, and like, it gives me a very much like Overwatch undertone to it, and I really like that about it, and that's why it actually moved up for me to B tier. And looking at it now, it's hard to say. I might even place it above. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and move that, guys. We're gonna move that. So it's gonna be above classic in D tier, or
Oh,
B tier. Sorry, because the graphical fidelity and the quirkiness. Like, I mean, we know you guys have your opinions on that, but I thought that shit was cool. I thought it was cool how they switched it up a lot. So we're gonna move that actually above classic and B tier.
hell
All right, so we have done classic, Burning Crusade, Wrath, Cataclysm, Mists, and Warlords and Legion.
yeah. And Legion, yeah.
All right, Battle for Azeroth. I'm gonna start this off, boys.
Yeah.
This trailer to me, again, I'm gonna say it again. You already know what I'm about to say. We're not judging on gameplay here, guys. It's trailer versus trailer. We're only like judging trailers based on other trailers. I think that BFA's trailer was the best trailer this game has ever seen. It's going in S for me. There's so
Oh
many
yeah.
reasons why, and if I went into all of them, I'd be here for an hour.
Oh yeah, for sure. I definitely think so you'd put that above Warlords then?
Um, yes, I actually would, and I'll tell you the reason why. The reason, guys, why I think that BFA belongs in S tier so far and also above the Warlords trailer is specifically one, the Banshee yell by Sylvanas. That shit got me so hard. I get goosebumps every time still. Anduin's facial expressions while doing the mass resurrection, that shit is like a staple of the Alliance. And mainly the main thing why BFA belongs in the S tier in terms of the trailer is because of the last shot just before it cuts out, when it has the Alliance guy with the spear going up and the orc jumping in. Like, that has always been what World of Warcraft has been about. It's like the Alliance versus the Horde, and they encapsulated it perfectly in that one frame shot right at the end before the logo pops up.
Absolutely. Mic drop. That's pretty much, yeah. I
Yeah,
agree. I'd put that in the number one S tier slot, 100%. It
I just
definitely does feel like, emblematic of just the entire fucking, series, and
it
yeah,
felt like a
it is very
statement to
cool to
the
see
whole
it.
series.
Yeah, it could definitely be considered like their magnum opus in terms of cinematics. Like, even if the rest of the cinematics for some reason didn't catch on as much as
Yep.
these have, like that one was
And
definitely
I
a good statement.
and like, to be fully unbiased here too, guys, I know we're judging just off of the trailers. This was a big time when I was into World of Warcraft, and that year I had watched the BlizzCon event and the revealing of that trailer, and like, it was one of
Yeah.
those events where like I called my friends and I was like, "Did you just see that?" Like we all got on Discord after, and we were like, "Did you like, dude? It is the battle for Azeroth," and like, we know how it went in the end. It was like, it's not that good, but like the trailer, dude, like it was cool. It was awesome. I remember like it's not many times in video games where I get that feeling where like, and it's weird to say, but like you see it and you're so connected to the lore. Like, I was super into World of Warcraft. I was raiding, I was doing heroic raiding, I was keeping up with the story, I was doing the story quests that would release every couple weeks. And that trailer came out, and like I felt like I wanted to fucking cry, dude. Like, I was like, this shit is so awesome. And like, I've only had that maybe a dozen times in gaming total, and I've been gaming since I was 10 years old.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a really special experience. I
Okay.
also think it is totally okay for like sentimental value and just legitimate good experiences with something for it to
Yeah.
push your ranking higher.
Yeah,
I
that's why
think
I
that
wanted to
one
add
was,
that in.
yeah, 100%. I think that one was good enough that it's funny that it can stand not only on its own, but then, you having that experience with it will also elevate it. So
Yep.
definitely good number one.
So Shadowlands. That was with Sylvanas fighting Bolvar,
Yeah.
the new Lich King. What do you? I'll let you start this one off.
Yeah, I think this one is super sick. I uh, I like Sylvanas in every appearance she's had, and you could definitely tell. I don't know. It almost feels like it picks up right where BFA left off, and it's really cool to see. You know, you see the Lich King, and you think of how powerful he is, and then it's like Sylvanas is just even more powerful, and
Yeah.
her statement of like I'm going to set everybody free, and I don't know, that was pretty awesome, like kind of destroying the helmet as if she doesn't even need the power. And
Yeah,
the
I
the
thought that was
score
awesome.
yeah, the score in this was insane.
I agree.
The way it complemented like what was happening on screen. To me, it was probably the best use of music in like any of the cinematics.
Really, dude, that's
Yeah, I
awesome. Like that's
Yeah, I
awesome.
think I think the outro especially, and just some of the lines in this, like it's definitely up there for me with the Warlords cinematic, because some of the lines are instantly quotable. And I don't know, I'm just thinking about how triple A, quadruple A, the fucking the all of the audio sounds, and especially
Hmm.
like right down to like the dialogue and everything. It's insane. Like,
Yeah,
but yeah,
I thought
I'd personally put this one up in definitely up in S tier. Um,
okay.
yeah, I'd probably put this as the third S tier.
Yeah, so I'm right about there with you, and actually hearing some of that, like it made me realize how awesome the score on that one was. One thing that's hard to get rid of was the bias of not caring anymore at that point, but hearing all that, I think that's all absolutely true. And seeing Sylvanas fight the Lich King, I mean that shit was nuts. And that was also another World of Warcraft cinematic that I saw live during BlizzCon with two of my friends and my girlfriend at the time, all of which you would know who they are. And like we were like, even my friends that didn't play the game and my girlfriend at the time didn't play the game, and they were like, dude, this shit looks awesome. I'm sitting there, freaking out way more than everybody else, but at the same time everybody else is like, this shit looks awesome. For that
Yeah,
reason, the reason being that my friends who don't play the game thought that it was really awesome seeing that trailer. And they, like, my friends that were watching with me were there for like Overwatch, like they
yeah,
were watching live for Overwatch stuff and all that, and they thought the trailer was awesome, and I also thought it was awesome. And I think you brought up a really good point about the score that I'd overlooked before, because I was also at a point in my WoW career where I felt like I didn't care anymore, so I think I overlooked the score. I will place that in low S tier.
hell yeah,
I think that was a really good point, the stuff that you brought up right there.
for sure, hell yeah.
All right, so we're on to the last one. We're not gonna rate The War Within, guys, because it's not out yet. So we're just gonna end with Dragonflight. And again, guys, there is another video of both of us reacting to it, adding some thoughts after each one. So go check that video out as well. So Dragonflight, Gavin, I know you said you love this one a lot. Tell us why.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really cool. Funny to preface it with what you said, because
Oh,
like
word.
I don't I know, yeah, it is mostly positive. I think this one definitely has like an emotional core to it that is really
I agree.
special.
I agree.
Um, it's funny that you said about like how during Shadowlands you felt like you were checked out a little bit. I
Yeah.
feel like when I started playing Dragonflight, I could not be more checked out from
Oh,
the
okay.
actual gameplay experience. And watching the cinematic, because I saw it like right when I first started playing Dragonflight, because I was mostly like a classic Andy before then, and I
Yeah.
was just tiptoeing around the different stuff. I don't know. I think it feels about as detached from the identity of the other cinematics as Pandaria does. Just being in its own land, and starting off with the stone guys, and like I think it is like emotionally powerful, and it's cool for what it is. I think you could definitely start making the argument with this one that like while it is beautiful to watch and it is really cool, it doesn't feel nearly as much like the core like WoW experience to me, which I don't want to
I
like
agree.
put
I agree.
like I don't want to put WoW into a box, but like it's sort of like it's almost like a mission statement. Like when Blizzard puts a new cinematic out for WoW, you can almost tell like what they want you to focus on and what they want you to think is important, and they want to set the tone for the expansion. And to me, this tone was like whole new Dragonland and like this, aside from the stone guys and the dragons and their story, like you're not really, I don't know, it feels like, I mean, you literally are kind of departing at the Azeroth that and so depending on whether people like I think this is one of the ones where it's like if you like the departure, whether it's gameplay or whether it's just watching it and wanting something new, if you wanted a departure from like just Azeroth in general, I think you really get it with both the cinematic and the expansion.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me personally, like I don't know, it's like when I was watching it, I was like, damn, I feel really bad for this like stone giant guy, and then I felt really uplifted with like the music and the dragons flying around. So at the time, I was like, man, this is a definite A tier. But the more I think about it, I'm like, this doesn't feel like the same WoW as the rest of them. So it feels like it'd be
Yeah.
doing a disservice for me to put it in the A. For me personally, I'd probably put it in. I don't know. It's like one of the least I think it's hard to separate how I feel about the expansion from the cinematic,
It
but
is
I
really hard. I've noticed, like, as I've gone through, and like, obviously, we're trying to judge them just off the trailer, but it is really fucking hard to actually do that now that I'm like going through it.
yeah, I think it's too good of a cinematic to not like I don't want to let my personal opinion sway it too much, or my personal opinion of the expansion itself to sway it at all. So not
Hmm.
swaying it at all, I would say like if I had to put it, I would probably put it at the top of, well, I'd put it behind Legion, but I'd probably put it in front of the other three just because I think it was extremely well done, but I do think it's kind of a, if we're talking about is it a great WoW cinematic, you could definitely make the argument that it's not the most cohesive, but maybe that was
Yeah.
exactly what they wanted. But I'm
Yeah.
curious to hear
Yeah.
your thoughts.
Yeah. I agree with a lot of that, and I think it feels in a weird way. The graphical fidelity, the sound fidelity, the score, it's all there in the same way that it is for a lot of the others, but it does feel a little bit weirdly disconnected from, even if you just compare it to all the other WoW cinematics, because like obviously you had classic and BC, and they were more general, clean slate type of trailers, but everything after that really had a big focus on saying little words but having a big impact, and I think that this one tried to, and it didn't feel as good, it didn't feel as impactful. Like the graphical fidelity and all that stuff was totally there, arguably to the best case scenario, but it didn't feel like it was totally there. And it really is tough to disconnect it from how I was feeling with WoW at the time. But in terms of trying, I would have put this in C tier if I was thinking about my WoW experience at the time. I will put it at the end of B tier, uh,
Oh yeah.
to be unbiased, because I think there was a lot of really cool shots in there, and I think that if it had been a titular expansion, I'm not sure if it was or wasn't, to be completely honest with you guys, but I think that it would move up a little bit if it had been in terms of the trailer. I don't think there was anything necessarily wrong with the trailer, but it does seem to have a very distinct tone shift from any other trailer in the series.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. Like they definitely hit the emotional core to it, and it felt good. But yeah, I don't know. I do think it's interesting. Like if you're watching them from the perspective of like, you know, this is like the tone that they want to set, and this is the
Mm-hmm.
direction that they're going to take it for, up until the next expansion. It is really interesting to see where their priorities lie because
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes, their priorities and where they want to go as a company is not always aligned with like what the
Right.
fans want to see. So
Yep.
I don't know. It's definitely a case of like, master class level cinematics, no matter how you cut it. But
Yeah.
yeah, there is something to be said for I don't know. It's like if you stick with the same thing too long, then you risk criticism for stagnation and for
Right.
not
Yeah.
keeping it
It's a
fresh. But then if you cut
yeah.
it, yeah, then it's different. If you start being like, oh, we're gonna change up our whole style, and it does change things.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So a little bit of a summary here, guys. We have for me, obviously this is mine, Gavin. But so for me, guys, I have BFA as the best trailer. Warlords right behind it. Shadowlands behind that. That's all S tier. Wrath is an A tier. And then we have Legion, followed by Burning Crusade, followed by Mists of Pandaria, followed by Classic, followed by Dragonflight in the B tier. And then we have Cataclysm in the C tier. I think ultimately it's kind of hard to rate these because I think they are all really good to a certain extent. But let us know what you guys think in the comments. Like I said, there will be another video before or after this shortly that you guys can go watch of us actually reacting and just watching them. And let us know what you guys think in the comments. I'd love to see what you guys think. I don't think that my opinion is fact or anything. It would be great to discuss with all of you what you guys think about it.